My fellow students of the infinite, you have come here today, as you have come to so many moments in your life, bearing the weight of the world. You have come with questions for which there seem to be no answers. You have come with problems that appear to have no solution. You have come, perhaps, seeking a new method, a new technique, a new plea to utter to a distant God, to finally intervene in the chaos of your human scene. But I am not here to give you a new prayer. I am here to introduce you to the only prayer. I am not here to offer you a temporary comfort for your problems. I am here to reveal the truth that instantly dissolves the very foundation upon which all problems are built. The world teaches you to pray from a place of need, from a sense of lack and separation. It teaches you to beg, to bargain, and to beseech. But the message brought forth through the work of Joel Goldsmith reveals a prayer that is not an asking, but a knowing. It is not a cry from the valley, but a declaration from the mountaintop of your own being. It is a prayer that requires no special words, no specific posture, and no appointed hour. It operates on one supreme, spiritual principle, and when this principle is grasped, not intellectually, but in the very core of your soul, the mountains of difficulty become as mist, and the chains of limitation fall away without a sound. What is this principle? What is this single, transformative shift in consciousness that renders any problem powerless? That is the sacred revelation we will open together. If this truth has found a home within you, if you feel the stirring of your own inner Christ, then let this channel be our continuing sanctuary. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and in the comments below, simply type the number 1. Let that number be your silent symbol, your agreement that there is only one presence, one power, one cause, and therefore only one prayer. And now, let us go into the silence, where this truth awaits us. Of course, here is the expansion of your first keynote, continuing directly from the introduction's flow and maintaining the Goldsmith style. And so, we come to the heart of the matter, the first and most fundamental cornerstone upon which this entire revelation rests. Prayer is not petition, it is recognition. You have been taught, perhaps from your earliest memory, that prayer is a form of asking. It is the act of a separate, human consciousness reaching out across a perceived void to a separate God, listing its needs, its wants, and its troubles. This is the prayer of the I-thou relationship, where you are here and God is there, and your success depends on your ability to eloquently plead your case or to persuade the divine to act on your behalf. This form of prayer, while often sincere, is built upon the foundational error of duality. It reinforces the very sense of separation that is the root of the problem you are praying about. It is like being in the brilliant, constant light of the sun, but closing your eyes and then begging the sun to let you see. The sun does not need to be persuaded to shine. You need only to open your eyes to its ever-present radiance. True prayer, the prayer that dissolves problems, is not about changing your outer conditions. It is not a tool to manipulate the universe into giving you a better set of circumstances. That is the level of human witchcraft, not divine communion. The instant you believe your prayer is about altering something out there, you have conceded reality to the appearance. You have affirmed the power of the problem. The prayer we speak of is an inner shift, a profound reorientation of consciousness from the outer effect to the inner cause. It is the movement of your awareness from the turbulence of the surface waves to the infinite, undisturbed depths of the ocean. This prayer is the act of recognition. What then do we recognize? We recognize what fees. We recognize the eternal, unchangeable fact of being. We recognize that the kingdom of God, the divine presence, the I Am, is not a location to be reached, but the very ground and substance of your own being and of all that is. You are not a human being trying to get God's attention. You are the very activity of God appearing as individual consciousness. Therefore, the prayer begins with a silent, inward turning. It is a withdrawal of your faith and reliance from the testimony of the senses, from the pain, the lack, the conflict, the fear, and a resolute abiding in the one great spiritual truth: I and the Father are one. Thy grace is my sufficiency. There is no power apart from God. This is not a denial of the human experience, it is a denial of its ultimate reality and power. You are not ignoring the storm, you are acknowledging the sun behind the clouds, which the storm can never extinguish. When you recognize the sun, the clouds lose their power to create permanent darkness. When you recognize the presence, the problem is revealed for what it is: a temporary formation in the human scene, having no law, no cause, and no sustenance in divine mind. It is a shadow, and when you turn on the light of recognition, the shadow instantly dissolves, not because you fought it, but because you understood its nature. This recognition is not a one-time event, but a continuous state of consciousness. It is the cultivated awareness that, regardless of what the senses report, regardless of what the world shouts, there is only one life, that life is God, and that life is your life now. This is the prayer that does not ask for peace, but realizes that peace is the very substance of your being. It does not ask for supply, but knows that the infinite source is your individual sufficiency. It does not beg for healing, but acknowledges that wholeness is the eternal and only truth of your identity. The moment this recognition dawns within you, not as a theoretical concept, but as a lived conviction, the foundation of any problem instantly crumbles, for it has nothing to which it can attach itself. This understanding of prayer as recognition naturally leads us to confront the single greatest illusion that binds human consciousness: the belief in a power apart from God. This is the belief in a second power. It is the root of every problem, the fuel for every fear, and the very substance from which every shadow of difficulty is cast. The world, and the human sense of life, is built upon the foundational premise that there are two powers at play: good and evil, health and sickness, abundance and lack, God and the devil. We live our lives negotiating between these two forces, trying to appease one and avoid the other, trying to accumulate the good and ward off the bad. We pray to God to protect us from this other power, to shield us from the malevolent forces of circumstance, fate, or misfortune. But I must tell you with absolute conviction, there is no other power. The moment you grant reality to a problem, to a sickness, to a lack, or to a fear, you are granting reality to a power opposed to God. You are, in that moment, creating an idol and worshipping it with your belief. You are bowing down to the appearance and affirming its authority over you. This is the great blasphemy, not in a theological sense, but in a practical, functional sense. It is the error that perpetuates the entire dream of separation. What you perceive as a problem, with its own power to harm, to limit, or to destroy, is not an entity in itself. It has no creative principle behind it. It is an effect, a shadow, a temporary formation appearing within the one and only reality, which is God. To believe in a second power is to believe that a shadow cast by a chair has the power to trip you. The shadow is nothing. It is an absence of light. The problem is nothing. It is an absence of the conscious awareness of presence. When you stand before a challenge and you feel its weight, its threat, its reality, you are in that moment giving your power to a non-power. You are fearing a non-entity. You are arguing with a shadow. The entire human scene is a panorama of these shadows, and humanity is engaged in a perpetual frantic war against them, never understanding that the battle itself is the confirmation of the illusion. The problem seems real only because your consciousness, temporarily mesmerized by the world of effects, has accepted it as real. It has no life, no law, no substance, and no continuity except that which you bestow upon it through your own thought and belief. The prayer of recognition, therefore, is the direct antidote to this illusion. It is the conscious withdrawal of the power you have given to the appearance. It is the act of turning your attention away from the shadow and back to the light, which is its only cause. You do not dissolve the shadow. You simply acknowledge the light, and the shadow ceases to be. There is no battle, no struggle, no war to be won. There is only a realization to be had. There is only a recognition of what is, and a corresponding recognition of what is not. The problem is not solved, it is revealed as nothingness. It is exposed as a lie, and a lie cannot stand in the presence of the truth. Your work is not to fight the darkness, but to turn on the light. Your work is not to analyze the problem, but to rest in the truth that there is only one power, one presence, one activating principle in the universe, and it is omnipresent good. It is here, where you are right now, as the very fabric of your being. The problem, whatever its name or form, is an imposter, a non-entity trying to convince you of its reality. The moment you cease your mental argument with it, the moment you stop feeding it with your fear and your belief, it has no sustenance. It vanishes, not because you pushed it away, but because you finally saw through it. This realization that there is no power in the problem, that it is merely a shadow cast by our own misdirected belief, brings us to the very substance of the prayer itself. If our work is not to fight the apparition, but to acknowledge the light, then what is this light? It is the conscious realization of omnipresence. This is not a metaphysical concept to be understood by the intellect, but a living truth to be felt and known at the very core of your being. Omnipresence means that God is all there is, and that this divine allness is present here, in this very moment, as this very situation, regardless of appearances. There is no place where God is not. There is no condition, no set of circumstances, no depth of despair that exists outside of this divine presence. The problem, then, does not exist in a vacuum. It does not occupy a neutral space upon which God must now act. It appears within the infinite and all-encompassing presence of God. It is a cloud in the sky, but the sky remains untouched and undiminished. To realize omnipresence is to understand that the problem has no environment of its own in which to thrive. It is an outlaw, a squatter, attempting to exist in a kingdom that has no room for anything unlike its own nature of harmony and perfection. This is why the prayer of recognition is so instantly powerful. It does not ask God to come down from a distant heaven to fix a broken situation. It is the profound acknowledgement that God is already the only reality of the situation. You are not bringing light to the darkness. You are acknowledging that the light is already all there is, and the darkness is but a temporary and illusory experience of a mind that believes in absence. When you are faced with a lack of supply, the prayer is not, "Please, God, send me money." The prayer is the silent, inner knowing, "Thou art my supply." You are not recognizing a future potential for supply. You are recognizing the present reality of supply as the very substance of your being and your world. You are shifting your identity from the one who has a lack to the one who is the embodiment of infinite divine substance. The same is true for sickness. The prayer is not a frantic plea for healing, as if health were a commodity to be granted. It is the calm, abiding recognition, "Thou art my life, and my life is whole, perfect, and eternal." You are not a sick person trying to become well. You are the immortal spiritual idea of God, and you are recognizing that truth right where the evidence of sickness appears. This acknowledgement is not a denial of the physical symptoms. It is a denial of their origin, their power, and their reality. It is seeing the sun while acknowledging the cloud, and knowing with absolute certainty which one is eternal and which one is temporary. This realization of omnipresence dissolves the problem because it removes the mental consent that gave the problem its form. The problem was only ever a thought, a belief in a power apart from God. When you fill your consciousness with the truth of omnipresence, there is no room for the contradictory thought. The two cannot coexist, for one is real and the other is illusory. The truth, when fully realized, does not make the error better, it makes it impossible. It is not a battle between two opposing realities, it is the simple, overwhelming presence of reality itself causing the apparition to vanish into the nothingness from which it came. Your entire spiritual work, therefore, is to cultivate this awareness until it becomes the continuous atmosphere of your consciousness. It is to practice moment by moment, turning from the loud, shouting testimony of the senses to the silent, ever-present hum of omnipresence. It is to know, even when you cannot feel it, that where you are, God is. What you are, God is. The situation you are in its spiritual reality, is God being God. This knowing is the prayer. This is the light that, when recognized, instantly dissolves any and every shadow. This conscious abiding in the truth of omnipresence requires a specific and disciplined action on our part, an action that is the very opposite of what the human mind urges us to do. It demands that we utterly cease all mental argument with the problem. The human sense of life is built upon argument and negotiation. When a problem appears, the instinct is to engage it. We analyze it, we worry over it. We trace its roots, we plan our defense, we rehearse our counter-attacks. We lie awake at night having long, intricate conversations with the problem in our mind. We give it a voice, and then we argue back, trying to win a debate against a phantom. This entire process, this mental warfare, is what gives the apparition its substance and its staying power. You are taking a shadow, and through the fervor of your own mental activity, you are giving it a name, a form, a history, and a future. You are building a cage out of your own thoughts, and then locking yourself inside with the very illusion you fear. To argue with a problem is to grant it a level of reality it does not possess. It is to step onto a battlefield that exists only because you have agreed to the duel. The truth is, you cannot win an argument with an illusion. You cannot reason with a mirage. The moment you begin to fight, you have already lost, because you have confirmed the problem as a worthy opponent. The prayer of recognition is not a more sophisticated form of argument. It is the complete cessation of argument. It is the silent, powerful decision to withdraw from the conflict entirely. This is not a passive resignation. It is the most active spiritual stance you can take. It is an act of supreme faith. It is the conscious choice to stop feeding the problem with your attention, your fear, and your mental energy. Imagine a fire that is burning only because you are continuously throwing fuel onto it. Your anxious thoughts, your frantic planning, your fearful projections. This is the fuel. To cease mental argument is to stop throwing fuel. The fire, deprived of its sustenance, must inevitably die down. Your inner struggle is the only thing keeping the problem alive. When you stop struggling, the problem, having no life of its own, must vanish. This is what it means to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. The standing still is not a physical inertia, it is a mental and spiritual stillness. It is the quieting of the noisy, fearful human mind that is always trying to fix, to manage, and to control the world of appearances. It is the surrender of the I, what of mine own self, can do nothing, and the simultaneous realization that the Father within, he doth the works. Your work is not to fix the problem. Your work is to maintain your conscious union with the Father, to abide in the truth of omnipresence, and to refuse to be drawn into a mental debate with the shadows on the wall. When a thought of fear arises, do not engage it. Do not follow its thread. Do not build a story around it. Gently but firmly turn your attention away. Turn it back to the great spiritual facts. I am in the Father, while the Father is in me. The grace is my sufficiency. There is no power but God. This is not repression, it is replacement. You are replacing a lie with the truth. You are dethroning the impostor and crowning the rightful king. Every time you refuse to argue with the problem, you are withdrawing your power from it. You are, in a very real sense, forgiving it, releasing it from the false reality you had bestowed upon it. And in that release, you are simultaneously freeing yourself from its tyranny. The problem loses its grip on you the moment you stop gripping it. The natural consequence of ceasing our mental argument with the world of appearances is that we find ourselves entering a new state of consciousness. This state is not one of blank emptiness or passive waiting. It is a state of profound, dynamic receptivity. It is the state of resting in the silence. This silence is the very atmosphere of God. It is not the absence of sound, but the presence of a palpable, living peace that transcends all human understanding. It is in this sacred silence that the prayer of recognition moves from being a statement of truth to becoming an embodied reality. This is where the actual transformation occurs. You can state the truth with your lips 1,000 times, but it is only in the silence that the truth begins to state you. It is only when the clamor of the human mind, with its fears, its arguments, its plans, and its opinions, is stilled, that the still, small voice of the I Am can be heard, not as a sound, but as a knowing. This is not a listening for something. It is not a tense, anxious waiting for a message or a sign. That would be just another form of mental activity, another expression of the human sense seeking to grasp something outside itself. To rest in the silence is to release all seeking. It is to let go of the need for an answer, for a solution, for any external validation. It is to come into the present moment with no other agenda than to be consciously present with the presence. It is in this unconditional surrender that the divine alchemy takes place. In the outer world, you are the actor, the one who must strive and achieve. But in the silence, you become the witness, the beholder. You relinquish the role of the problem solver and assume your true identity as the child of God, the very offspring of the One. Here, in this Holy of Holies within your own consciousness, a great reversal occurs. The human mind, which has been trying so hard to know God, to reach God, to persuade God, is suddenly still, and in that stillness it is known by God. It is infused, permeated, and illuminated by the divine consciousness. This is the active prayer. This is where the realization of omnipresence ceases to be a concept and becomes your lived experience. You are not doing anything in the silence. You are allowing everything to be done through you. You are the flute through which the divine breath flows. You are the transparency through which the divine light shines. This is the meaning of pray without ceasing. It is not a perpetual chanting or speaking. It is the maintenance of this inner stillness, this conscious contact, as the continuous backdrop of your life. It is walking through the world while your innermost being rests in this eternal silence. From this center, all action flows harmoniously. From this peace, all power is expressed. The problems of the world do not disappear because you have fought them. They are resolved because you have brought the light of this silence to bear upon them. They are reabsorbed into the divine harmony from which they never truly departed. When you emerge from this silence, you do not emerge with a plan to fix the problem. You emerge with the problem already dissolved in your consciousness, and the outer world, in its own time and way, has no choice but to adjust itself to this new, higher reality that you have established within. The appearance may not vanish in an instant before your physical eyes, but it has vanished in the only place where it ever had any reality, in your own awareness. Your outer experience is then simply catching up with an inner fact that has already been accomplished in the kingdom of heaven, which is within you. Of course, here is the expansion of your sixth keynote, continuing the flow from the previous section. And so, as we rest in this sacred silence, allowing the divine current to flow unimpeded, we come to the ultimate realization, the final unveiling. We discover that this power, this presence, this very activity of God that we have been seeking to know is not a force external to us that we must petition or attract. It is our own deepest self. Your I Am is the dissolving presence. This I Am is not the human personality with its history, its fears, and its desires. That is the I that believes in problems, that feels separate and afraid. The I Am is the pure consciousness that precedes all thought, the very ground of your being, the individualized expression of the one infinite I Am. It is the Christ of your being. It is not something you will become. It is what you are, here and now, behind the veil of your temporary self-identification with the body and the human drama. The entire spiritual journey is the process of shifting your sense of identity from the human I to the divine I am. When you say, I am lacking, I am afraid, you are attaching this sacred name, I am, to a transient and illusory condition. You are giving your divine power to a shadow. You are, in essence, worshipping a false god. The prayer of recognition is the reversal of this. It is the conscious, deliberate use of the I am to affirm its own nature. It is the declaration, not from the human level, but from the very throne of being I am whole. I am peace. I am abundance. I am life. This is not a positive affirmation designed to convince yourself of something you hope is true. It is a statement of spiritual fact, uttered from the depths of the silence, acknowledging what has always and eternally been true about your identity in God. The moment this recognition dawns, the human condition has no anchor. It is a cloud attempting to attach itself to the sun. The sun does not battle the cloud. The sun, by its very nature, causes the cloud to dissipate. Your I am, when realized as the only presence and power, does not fight your problem, it simply outshines it. The problem cannot coexist with the conscious awareness of I am as all. This is why the dissolution is instantaneous. It is not a gradual process of improvement, but a sudden shift in perception, a metanoia, a turning around of the mind, where you see from the mountaintop and realize the valley was never your true location. You understand that you were never a human being having a spiritual experience, but a spiritual being momentarily experiencing a human dream. In this awakening, the responsibility for your freedom shifts entirely to your own consciousness. No external teacher, no book, no teaching can do this for you. They can point the way, but you must make the journey inward. You must make the choice, moment by moment, to identify with the I am rather than with the appearance. You must choose to abide there, to rest there, to live from there. When a thought of lack arises, you do not fight it. You gently return to the I am as your infinite supply. When a pang of fear strikes, you do not analyze it. You turn within and know I am as perfect love which casts out fear. This is the practice. This is the abiding. This is the continuous prayer that weaves the fabric of a new heaven and a new earth. It is the ultimate spiritual maturity, to take up the divine authority that has always been yours and to declare, from the very core of your being, that where I am, God is, and therefore no problem can exist.